Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we're going to be adding a new component to our BP player, the physics handle, and we're going to be learning how we can get a pointer to it in our grabber component. We're also going to look at how we can protect ourselves from accidentally crashing the engine. Let's dive in and see how. Now, in order to grab hold of an object, we need to interact with the physics system, and there is actually a component that we can use called the physics handle, which allows us to grab physical objects and tell them where we want to be in the world, but do it in such a way that it acknowledges physical constraints, so it doesn't pass through walls. And it kind of looks like the object is on a spring rather than rigidly following a specific point that we tell it to go to. So we're going to use this physics handle component. We're going to go and add it to our player BP along with the grabber. So let's go to the add button under the components pane and look for physics handle and add it in. And you can see that it's an actor component, not a scene component, because it goes down in the lower section. So it doesn't actually have a physical transform of its own. What we do with the physics handle is we tell it the object to grab, and then we tell it where we want it to put the object that we've grabbed. If you go over to the documentation, you can see this in the functions that are available. If you scroll down to the functions section, you can see that there is a release component and a grab component at location function. There's also a set target location and rotation. This is where it wants to try and put the object, but obviously it will respect any physical constraints in doing so, and it will do it in a smooth way as if it were on a spring. Now, we're not going to use these functions just yet, but we do need to find a way of getting hold of this component in our grabber component. So how do we do that? Well, let's go over to our grabber CPP and have a look in begin play and try and get hold of it. Now, there's a function on any actor which allows us to find a component by its type. But what is the type of the physics handle? Well, it is a U physics handle component. Now, to get hold of this type, we need to use an include, and you can see the include in the documentation is physics engine / physics handle component. So let's copy that, go over to our grabber CPP and add it in under our draw debug helpers. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do a get owner to get hold of our owning actor pointer, then do an arrow and call FindComponentByClass. Now, this function is a special kind of function called a template function in C++, and this means that you can pass it some parameters that actually get evaluated when you compile. And the way you do this is using angle brackets like this. So you use an angle bracket after the function, and you give it the type that you want it to find, which in our case is the U physics handle component, like so. And then you close the angle brackets. But because it's a function, you do need to call it using regular parentheses as well. So then you put the second set of parentheses after this. So you can see that these compile time arguments are passed in using the angle brackets, and then the runtime ones are passed in using the parentheses. Now, like a regular function, this will have a return value. And in this case, the return value is going to be whatever type we've passed in here, but as a pointer. So we can take a U physics handle component pointer and create a variable for that, which we're going to call the physics handle, and set it equal to this getOwner FindComponentByClass. Now let's remember a semicolon at the end of this line, and that is everything required in order for us to get hold of another component on our same actor. Now remember that I told you that pointers can be dangerous because sometimes they can be null, and that can lead to a crash. So imagine we'd forgotten to put a physics handle component on our actor. Or we've put a grabber on a new actor and we haven't hooked it up with a physics handle component yet. If this is the case, then the physics handle pointer is going to be a null pointer. And if we try to use the arrow operator or dereferencing operator on that pointer, it will crash our engine. And it can be sometimes really hard to see what that crash looks like. So I'm just going to go ahead and actually cause this crash just to show you, and you might be able to recognize it if it happens to you in the future. I'm going to reassign our physics handle pointer equal to the null pointer special keyword. It's all nullptr. That's how you spell null pointer in C++. Then you put a semicolon at the end. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do physics handle arrow get name like so. And if we go ahead and compile using live coding, and when that's finished compiling, we're going to go ahead and make sure, first of all, that we save anything that we've got here going on in our BP player, because I'm about to crash the engine. And if I go ahead and hit play, this is the result that we get, a crash reporter. And you may be tempted to think when you see this that something's gone wrong with Unreal, but it's actually your code that's at fault here. You can see that in this crash report, the first line says that the issue is coming from ugrabber : begin play. And it's actually giving us the line number as well, which is line 28. So you can see that at this point, on line 28, when we dereferenced that pointer in order to call a function on it, we actually committed a grave error in not checking first whether that pointer was null. So that's what we need to do. And we do that with an if statement. We basically say if physics handle is not equal to null pointer, then we can go ahead and call stuff on that physics handle. So we can put the physics handle get name inside of this if statement, and that protects us because that code, that dereferencing code, won't be executed in the case where we have a null pointer. So I'm going to go ahead and remove line 27 now, where we are setting it to a null pointer, and I'm going to challenge you to print the component name for yourself. So only print if we have the actual component. Basically, we don't have a null pointer. And use an else to warn if we didn't manage to get hold of that component, and try removing the component to check. Pause the video and have a go. Okay, welcome back. So we're going to create a new ulog message here, and we're going to say got physics handle : %s, and we've got this physics handle name, which I'm just going to cut and paste as the second argument, or the fourth argument, into the ulog, and I'm going to put a star because it is a string. Now let's add an else statement under our if statement, and in here we're going to put another ulog, which is going to be, this time instead of a display, we're going to put a warning type message, so it's going to come up in yellow, and we're going to say no physics handle found ! Now I haven't got the editor open, so I'm going to do a Control-Shift-B to build within Visual Studio Code, close down the terminal when it's successful, and relaunch from the U project. Once that's launched, let's go ahead and hit play, open up the output log, and we should see the log message got physics handle, which the name is, funnily enough, physics handle. Now, what if we were to go over to our BP player and actually delete that physics handle, and go ahead and play now. Have a look at our output log, and there you go. We've got a yellow warning that no physics handle was found. So let's stop play. Let's go ahead and add the physics handle back because we are going to want it, and we'll save the player BP. Great stuff. So we've figured out how we can get hold of other components from within a component, and we've learned how to deal with null pointers and why we need to be careful. I'll see you in the next lecture.